evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, podcast fans of all ages. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I am Dave Valente,
And
Electoral College
I
dropout,
am Dan the Man Fishman.
El Dandy Dan.
What's up, Dave? How's your week going?
Going pretty good, man. What did you think about the? I mean, we did the live stream of the debate. Now that
Yeah,
you've had a few days to ruminate on it, how do you feel about it?
I still
What's
feel
up,
the same
Janice?
way I did. I was impressed at Vance's loquaciousness. I think that he was poised. I think that Waltz missed a couple of huge opportunities and times looked flustered. But the one thing that I was thinking about, the biggest opportunity he really missed was when JD Vance said to him, he's like, why you say you guys are going to do all this stuff? Why didn't Kamala do this job that, the American people elected her to do? He should have said, so you admit that she was indeed elected by the people and that Donald Trump lost.
Exactly.
That would have been awesome.
Again, it displays a fundamental lack of understanding of what the role of the vice president is. Like it made, like, I think Walz was wrong to not push back on when they kept saying the Harris administration, because she's the vice president. The vice president really just doesn't have a whole lot of control over a lot of things. So
yeah, I mean, she made a lot of votes, right? I mean, I think she probably voted more than any other vice president in a 4-year period.
Yeah, she broke a lot of ties just due to the nature of the close balance of the Senate. But yeah, because she was the tie-breaking vote on the Recovery and Investment Act. So she does have power, but it really, for the most part,
she doesn't have leadership power. She has approval power.
Yeah, exactly.
And case in point, if she had more power, she would have had Biden out of there 2 years ago. So we know. I mean, look how hard it was when the guy was obviously incompetent. They still couldn't get him out. So my general feeling about the debate was that nobody cares. Now, the other interesting thing about it is, have you voted yet?
I have not voted yet, and West Virginia early voting doesn't start until the end of. Well, I'll have to look. Okay.
So Maryland,
as you get older, time compresses.
Yes.
Yeah, like when I was a kid, I remember there was a summer I felt like it lasted forever. Like it was, 2 months, but it felt like it lasted forever.
Whatever, Bryan Adams. Those days they used to last forever.
They did. Because that was a large percentage of your life. Now it's becoming a much shorter percentage of your life overall. Your time compresses, and to me, it feels like I'm still somewhere in summer at this point, and the year is just blowing by. We're already in October. We're already getting to spirit Halloween season. So
as one of my, probably my fourth or fifth favorite podcast, radio, what the hell is it called now? I can't think of it. It'll come to me. Anyway, we're balls deep in October at this point in time.
We are.
Yeah. And I have already voted because we have vote by mail.
Oh, cool.
And so I was surprised I did not vote for Larry Hogan. I voted for Angela Alsobrooks, who's the Democrat running for Senate here in Maryland. On local issues, I voted, the way you would expect that I would vote. But I just can't bring myself to vote for a guy, even like Larry Hogan, who's a pretty moderate Republican. But anybody who has less than full-throated support for women's rights to control their own body.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm just not there anymore. I'm not like, it's a states' right issue. It's not a states' rights issue. States don't have rights either, right?
And
states have powers. Humans have rights.
Yeah, states suck. I don't understand how the term states' rights libertarians just
right.
Absolute oxymoron. And breaking news.
Yes.
Concerning our former political ex-wife, one Karen Ann Harless has been removed as secretary of the Libertarian National Committee. That just happened.
Second time.
Yeah, second time. Although although she probably disagrees with that one. It's okay when bad people fight each other. When the bad people are fighting, it's fun to watch. So,
But I will tell you, I am happy at all the people who are embracing Karen Harlow's like all is forgiven.
oh my God, yeah,
You cannot spell chaos without CAH.
exactly.
She goes to, she doesn't care about what's right or wrong. She cares about what's the most chaos that she can cause. And in
Oh
this
yeah,
case, that was just causing chaos.
yeah,
And so, in the same way that, right, she essentially said that Justin Amash could not be she was going to use her power as secretary to prevent Justin Amash from being the Libertarian candidate in 2020.
yeah.
That sort of bullshit. She just wants the most chaos that she can cause.
Well,
And so
she's moved from caucus to caucus to caucus to, you know, wherever it's going to give her
I'm going to
the
leave
most.
all of those jokes alone.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah, but she started out with the Radical Caucus, then she went to the Mises Caucus, where she's
Right,
revived her political fortunes,
yeah,
and now she's trying to do this kind of mea culpa tour that she's always been the person in the right. That we know that's complete bullshit. We've dealt
right,
with her before.
right.
Um, there 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 are just
Completely
some things that
crazy.
there are some sins that are unforgivable,
Well,
and
the interesting thing about it is that I'm not 100% convinced that what she did was right either. Like what
oh
she's
no,
claiming right
it's
now.
political expediency.
Well, it's not even political expediency. I don't agree that the National Party has the right to put a candidate on the ballot. That is a state, right? And
Yeah.
in this case, who you don't actually put a candidate on the ballot, right? You put electors on the ballot.
Yes. We'll talk about
So
that
in
in a
this
moment.
case, she picked electors who were not selected by the Libertarian Party. She picked electors that she selected,
Yep.
and so it's a complete violation
Yeah.
of what it's supposed to do. And she's like, "Oh, it's my responsibility as national chair." Well, your responsibility as national chair is to tell them what the local party suggested and put the electors on because. And I can't believe how well this is going to segue into what we're talking about.
I know.
Um, you know, electors are on the ballot for a specific reason.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get just to out of whimsy decide who she wants to put on as electors for the Libertarian Party of Colorado.
Exactly. Um, yeah, no one I mean, the situation in Colorado is essentially porn. There are no good actors involved in all in the Colorado situation.
Right.
It's watching what happened with Oliver, and then the people trying to put Kennedy on the ballot instead of Oliver, and then Karen Anna Harlow's kind of going over the top and doing her thing. It's a just a bad situation all around.
Right.
Um, but yeah, somebody asked me what my what my opinion is anyway, and I shared the GIF of the top speed guys where the dude just goes, "Oh no." Anyway,
Yeah. I honestly think that to Karen Ann's mind, there is, uh, we talk about rats deserting a sinking ship. Okay. The money is all gone. Things are about to get really bad in terms. I truly believe that there's going to be legal consequences for some
oh
of the
yeah,
board members. And so now she gets out of this. Oh, they kicked me out. I was trying to do good stuff, blah, 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 blah. And that's going to be crazy. And so she feels like the way that she gets ahead of it all is to get cooked out and say, oh, yeah, I'm also an enemy of the bad Mises Caucus.
yep,
But the reality of it is that
yeah,
she's
and
doing
she'll
that. She's
spend the next few months rallying, trying
right.
to get people to forget what she did
Well,
and her
so
role in the
she wants to be chair, right? That's what's
yeah.
been said is that she wants to run for chair, which I mean, I don't care. I'm going to Houston to the Liberal Party USA convention. Looking forward to seeing many of you there. And hopefully uh, something comes out of that. And the thing that I want to see come out of it is a place where good state affiliates who want to, will join the Liberal Party USA. So, for example, the Libertarian Party of New Mexico, the Libertarian Association of Massachusetts, both of which were the national affiliates of the LNC,
Yeah.
are now joining Liberal Party USA. The Keystone Party in Pennsylvania, which was previously the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania, is now also joining Liberal Party USA. So there's room for lots of good libertarians, for lots of good libertarian state parties.
And
Uh,
good libertarians, like good
good, yeah,
former
yeah,
libertarians that are involved. I mean, if you know and like Steve Sheets, if you know and like Jen Moore, if you know and like Trish Butler and
Josh Eckel and
Josh
Chris
Eckel,
Lucchini.
Chris Lucchini,
Yep,
all solid people, all people that have been on the show before, except
yep,
for Trish. But people we've had on the show before that are principled in the liberal and the libertarian philosophies. These are that party's in good hands.
yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, it's hard to spin up a party again,
It
but
is.
I do. I want to give it the old college try at least.
Well, it's hard to spin up a party, but it's also hard to rebuild one that has been so thoroughly torn
That's
asunder,
right.
and reforming the image of it, because that's really what it is. It's not so much that, oh, well, we'll just get together in 26 and go through. And
Right.
yes, it's still going to have some ballot access in some states, but the problem is the image of this party has been so ripped from its normal foundations, and I'll say normal in air quotes when it comes to libertarianism. We're seldom normal, but the efforts and the time and the money it will take to reform what is left of the Libertarian Party is just not worth that effort. I think
Yep.
it will be far easier to rebuild from the ground up. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's just going to be easier.
Right.
So, but
Well,
anyway, yeah,
it's going to be an interesting thing. But either way, the work of a party, as we talked about, is selecting electors. Why they do
yeah,
a bunch of things.
at least on
But
presidential level, yeah,
right, and the reason everybody should be clear that what happens is that we don't actually elect a president.
no,
You elect a slate of electors who then go to the Electoral College. Actually, it's not true. What they do is they meet usually traditionally at your state capitol,
yep,
and they cast their ballots, and then they vote as a state en masse, unless you are in Maine or Nebraska. Uh, and those votes get cast, uh, and then the ballot total is delivered to Washington, D.C., where the vice president on the first Monday, I believe, of the new year, not 100% sure, but the vice president, the current vice president, delivers the vote total
yeah.
to
I
Congress.
can
And then,
I got to read the relevant sections of the Constitution. So
all right, let's read them
if you're following along in your constitutional scorebooks,
in your pocket
we
constitution
yeah,
that you got from
pocket
Cato.
Constitution. So Article 2, I'm sorry, Article 2, Section 1, clauses 2 and 3. Each state shall appoint in such a manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress, but no senator or representative or person holding office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. So you couldn't, like, your reps and your senators can't be an elector, an official elector for president. And then
Right.
Congress may determine the time and choosing of the electors and the day on which they should give their votes, which day shall be same throughout the United States. So essentially what happens the same day in the United States, all these state legislatures the electors meet at the state legislatures, they cast their ballots. Those ballots are then transmitted to DC. Now, we know essentially how it's going to go. There are things like faithless electors. We'll talk about those later, but um, this is born out of a bygone era when it took, horse and buggy across the United States to deliver this information. So there's time built in between the time that the president's elected and the time that we get this information to Congress, and then they'll have the votes revealed first Monday of the new Congress, which of course, last time everybody knows what date that was, and that was January 6th. and shit went down.
Yeah.
But that vote was already cast. The die was cast already. Um, it was, the machinations of certain members of Congress trying to disqualify some electors.
Well,
But
right, and trying to send fake electors in some
fake
cases.
electors were another thing. But yeah, so essentially, when you go to the ballot on November 5th or before, if you already done it like Dan, you'll notice, I know in Georgia they did this. I can't remember if in West Virginia they do this, but like it'll tell you that you're casting a vote for like Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance, Republican, and they might have the list of names under there of the electors that will be actually casting the votes in, like in my case in Charleston, West Virginia, or Dan's case in Annapolis, Maryland.
Right.
Um, so
But yeah,
you're
usually
you're
they don't have that
you,
much. I agree.
yeah, you'll see the candidates that you're anticipating to vote for, and it's try not to confuse people. But I remember in Georgia, it definitely did. It had the presidential candidates, but it also had prominently on the ballots the names of the electors, the slate of electors that you're actually electing to go to your state capital to vote for the candidate that you want. Um, it's a very indirect democracy, and uh,
Now, it's designed that way for a reason.
yeah, it
We-
is.
I mean, there's two things about it. I mean, first, there is this idea that they were giving more power to the states by
Yeah.
doing that. In that, the
Well, it's federalism.
right, exactly. Well, it's federalism, but it's also the idea that the states have more power if they cast their vote as a state
Yeah,
rather
because
than
the constitutional doesn't specify how you elect these electors. These electors are elected, and there's no specific which is why we have a variance in how some states do it versus others.
right. The right. Well, and so in uh, in many places, in most places, I would argue, the electors themselves are not elected; they're appointed, and the presidential candidate, then wins, and his electors then go and cast a vote. But the people who are the presidential electors are usually
Party
party
hacks.
loyalists.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because uh, there's a question about whether or not electors are bound to vote for.
And some
Uh,
states have instituted laws saying, trying to ban the idea of faithless electors, because we've seen over the last few elections
yeah,
where faithless electors have cast their votes, and
yeah,
generally it's because it doesn't really matter whether there's been enough
right,
distance between one candidate or
right,
another.
right.
And some of
Famously,
the like losing candidates electors will cast a
right,
vote out of
right.
political
Whatever
whatever. Yeah,
showmanship or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah, but there is a thing too where the uh, the consequences of being faithless, those laws are relatively teethless.
yes.
They haven't. Don't recall seeing anybody face any significant consequences for not voting the way they want to. Nor have I seen there be any form of reconciliation uh, that the state could say, "Oh, wait, this isn't the right vote because the selector did something they shouldn't have," or anything like that. That part is all kind of still very
It's
loosey goosey,
Yeah,
depending on
it's
an
not gonna
arbiter.
be I don't think it's, something that somebody's gonna, like, super hardcore enforce unless it's a situation like where, let's say at the end of the election, 'cause there is a way for it to end up tied,
Right.
269 to 269, so no presidential candidate gets a majority of the Electoral College, and let's say a faithless elector gets something in return, gets a, under the table bribe and flips their vote to the other candidate, and
Yeah. I
the
mean,
election flips. Now then you're going to have like a huge controversy as far as How do we treat faithless electors, and how
A
do you
huge
enforce
controversy
that?
and no established way on how to resolve things,
Exactly. So
which is a problem, but it's still better than the idea, in my opinion, that the popular vote would be the way that we elect the president.
yeah, I'm not a real big fan of doing popular vote. I've got some reforms that we'll talk about, or at least a reform that I think we should we should look at.
All
That
right.
we'll talk about here in a minute. But really, the with the Electoral College, you of course we've had instances where if there is no candidate that gets a majority, which we've had a couple times in American history,
Yep.
where a candidate does not get neither candidate gets a majority of the popular vote, or gets the majority of the electoral vote. Then it goes to Congress, and your senator and representatives will sit there and cast a single vote for.
I don't think the senators do it, right? It's just the House.
Hold on a sec. I had the.
Yeah, I think it's just the House, and but we'll find out. And it's interesting because there they don't vote as states, right? There they vote as individual members of the House.
No, it's voted one vote per state.
One vote per state. Interesting.
Yeah, let's see. No person to have a majority, then from the five highest on the list, the said house, so it is the House, shall in like manner choose the president, but in choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by states, the representative from each state having. Oh, so it is one vote okay, so
Yeah.
it's one vote per rep. So eventually,
I just
whoever
want to
wins
say
the House will win it.
I've been right from start to finish. Let me just point out. But yeah, because the reason I know this is because we went through this in depth with Gary Johnson
Yeah,
when we thought that there was a real chance that Trump and Clinton might be close.
but the
Uh,
only thing is, Johnson would have had to have received an electoral vote.
yeah, yeah.
In the top five. If he didn't receive an electoral vote, then it would
This
just been
this
three.
was planned with the idea that between five states, Wisconsin, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and New Mexico, we were going to get Gary Johnson was going to win one state. That was the
Okay.
plan. And somehow that would be enough to force us into the long stage. And so we had lawyers set up to do that thing and fight it if we were going to. And the general thought was that if that happened, we had a pretty good chance of Gary Johnson winning.
Yeah, because I mean,
Because
he would have been the compromise candidate.
exactly, because you could tell the Democrats vote for Gary Johnson and Donald Trump won't be president. Uh, Whereas the Republicans were unlikely to say, well, vote for Gary Johnson and Hillary Clinton won't be president.
But you might have
However,
gotten a few.
however, the vice presidential candidate is not is not eligible. So
You know,
it's only the two highest vote getters who are eligible to be elected for vice president by the House, and it's the three highest vote getters for the
actually, this one said
presidency.
five.
Say five?
Yeah, so if five people
Right.
get
You're right.
electoral
They
vote,
have to get an electoral vote.
yeah,
That's the thing.
yeah. So top five, if all five get electoral vote, and just whoever gets an electoral vote. Well, so that's actually where something like a faithless elector might have even more influence, in that
Except that it
they
won't
bring in
matter.
somebody.
It won't matter though because you're right. You're saying the
Yeah,
faithless
they
elector
bring
can
in an
write in
electoral vote to.
one vote for somebody. That's a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
interesting
I
point.
mean, and remember, in history, the Libertarians' only electoral vote was a faithless elector, Roger McBride,
You know, voted
creator
for
of
Tony Nathan.
uh, yeah, I voted for Hosmer's Nathan, and he was the creator of Little House on the Prairie, at least the guy who brought it to the little screen,
Right.
and um, ended up being the 76th presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. So
Yep.
he was summarily drummed out of the Virginia Republican Party after. being a faithless elector for Nixon. So
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty crazy. That being said, let's hear some of the plans that you like, and we'll talk a little bit about. A lot of people complain that the Electoral College is stupid because the popular vote, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in 2020, and as Donald Trump claims, I don't think it's actually true. He claims he got more votes than anybody in the history of American presidential elections in
2020.
2024. In 2020, right?
Yeah.
No, sorry. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in 2016.
Yep.
Trump claims that he got more votes than anybody ever in the popular vote. However, in both cases, it should be pointed out that the claim itself is completely ridiculous because no campaign is running to win the popular vote.
No.
Donald Trump doesn't campaign in California because California is the most expensive media market in the United States, and he's not going to win there no matter what he does.
No.
Likewise, Democrats don't spend a lot of money in Texas.
No.
Although they're spending more this year than they have in recent.
Oh yeah, because Allred's doing really well.
Allred's doing well.
Charlie Cook has moved that prediction from toss up to leans Democratic. Just stunner.
It is a stunner, and I'll tell you too.
Although nobody really likes Ted Cruz, I don't think even his wife likes Ted Cruz.
Right. I mean, Donald Trump clearly doesn't. I donated money to Osborne in Nebraska today too, who has got a shot. Osborne. He's an independent, and he had been a Democrat. He left the Democratic Party in Nebraska 4 years ago, running as an independent, and obviously he has the. What's helped him a lot is that he has the richest cast member of the Seinfeld show on his side. And
it's not Seinfeld. It's Larry David.
Not Seinfeld. It's Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So
yeah, no, she's awesome.
Yeah.
And she's put a lot of money into that race, and a lot of independent Nebraskans have as well.
That's awesome.
And now I put $20 in. I think that's going to be the thing that pushes him over.
Yeah, that's it. He's going to be the next senator.
I mean, it's interesting because in one way, Osborne is an interesting candidate because he describes himself as libertarian, but then he also says we need to raise the minimum wage. So it's a tough vote.
I mean, again, if I had $1 for every especially Republican who told me, well, I'm a little bit, I got libertarian beliefs, and like I could retire today. So
right, he says that he's libertarian because he supports legalizing cannabis, and I think that's about it. But whatever. It'd be nice to see Osborne, because if Osborne and Allred come through, those are two places where the Republicans are really counting on that win.
Well, yeah, I mean, because the Republicans are going to pick up a Senate seat here in West Virginia.
Yeah,
I still think that Larry Hogan has a good chance of picking up the Maryland Senate seat, even though because also Brooks has been courting controversy. Like from a libertarian perspective or a liberal perspective, I don't her tax things. I'm like, if somebody's getting away with tax stuff, I'm not going to be too bad with that. But I think that does hurt her in Maryland. But no, I think my solution actually has roots in Nebraska and it has roots in Maine, and that's not to have winner take all, because the way that electoral, as I read earlier, electoral votes are granted to each state is by the number of senators and the number of congressmen. So number congressional district each state have. So here in West Virginia, we went from 5 last election down to 4 this election because we lost a congressional district. Here's how I do it. So with the two for a winner take all for the entire state, I would grant the 2 electoral votes that are granted based on your senatorial seats. Okay. For each congressional district, it's a inside that would be a winner take all. Now, I mean, I would completely scrap the system and go to more of a parliamentary system anyway. But as far as if you want to reform the electoral college, that's how I do it. Each congressional district would be up for grabs, and that way you would have candidates going to, like, you would have a Donald Trump going to Orange County, California. You would have Kamala Harris going to Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
You would have candidates competing for swing districts within states, because you're not going to
Right.
automatically, like Pennsylvania, you know, it wouldn't be
Yeah.
as big of a focus, because you have your Pittsburgh districts and your Philadelphia districts, and you have like the larger districts throughout the rest of the state. It's not a winner take all, but it allows candidates and campaigns to focus. I think they have an interest in protecting the status quo, in that it's easier to compete winner take all and stick to
Right.
a full state, rather than having to have organizations in each congressional district. But to me, I think that's how you both keep
Well,
a state centric, but also having people get more retail, more down to the level,
right.
and focus on individual areas rather than entire states.
Right. So, it's interesting. California State House is 62 Democrats and 17 Republicans. And it would be interesting to think that you could break up their electoral votes, California's electoral votes, that way.
Yeah.
Because then you're absolutely right. You would see more campaigning in California, although you see people focused more on campaigning county by county than you would see them doing statewide stuff.
Yeah.
And
Now,
people
if I
would pour
could,
more money in.
well, if I could also wave a magic wand, I'd also pull the number of districts that can be created from 435 congressional districts to something that's much more representative, and larger as a population. As our
Well,
population has grown,
let's think about what it says in the Constitution, right? The Constitution is crystal clear on this.
Yeah.
One representative for every 30,000 people.
which okay, let's do some math here from the gorgeous math.
Well, you say 30,000 and you divide 330 million by that. That's 1,100 representatives, 11,000 representatives.
Yeah.
Which would be nice. I mean, they could meet at the Astrodome.
Well, and I mean, even if we went, let's not quite tenfold increase. Let's go up to 3,000 representatives. You could probably still meet in DC. They have to do some renovations of the Capitol.
Well,
maybe even build a second wing for a
but
larger Senate.
But do we really need an even in-person meeting anymore?
No, not at all.
Exactly.
But
so, right, and so then if we don't need an in-person meeting, then we don't need a Congress. Everybody can just vote.
Yeah.
We don't need a representative democracy anymore. The problem, of course, is if you want to talk about taking jobs away from lawmakers, they will make laws that prevent you from taking their jobs away. They took our jobs. Speaking of which, we should talk about the longshore strike too. Well, let's keep going about the Electoral College a little bit
Carol.
more. Hey, Carol, how's it going? I don't think the Electoral College is going anywhere anytime soon.
No, I don't either.
Too many people entrenched in it. And when you hear people complain about it, they have no idea what they're actually talking about. I have yet to meet anybody who really understands why the Electoral College exists and why it's completely irrelevant who wins the popular vote.
Yeah, I mean, I hear people talk about, why should somebody in Wyoming have much more overall power to pick a president than somebody in California? I hear that argument, and because I mean, well, technically they do. Like, if you are in a congressional district in California and you're one of a million or so, and you're
600,000 people in Wyoming.
Yeah, and there's 600,000 people in Wyoming.
Sure.
They only get 3 electoral votes, but per per person, or the number of people who have the influence to grant an electoral vote in Wyoming versus California.
Right. And
It's stronger, but I mean, it's not like overwhelming. Like it doesn't
right.
move
You're
me
right.
as far as
California
an
gets
argument.
what, 64 electoral votes now?
No, it's dropped. Let's see.
270 to win is the place I like to go to figure out how many electoral votes every state gets. If you haven't been to 270towin.com, I recommend it. It's also
54.
I was so close. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So 54.
California is the biggest prize. Texas is second with
Right.
40. New York
Florida
dropped
is
to
third.
28. Pennsylvania is at what, 20 something? 19.
Yeah, Florida has
Pennsylvania's
30.
dropped out to 20.
New York is 28.
Now there is a curious
And
thing in that uh, the District of Columbia does have 3 electors in at the time of voting. So
right,
even though they
even
don't have
though
an actual representative
senators.
and they don't have Senate representatives,
Yep, yep, yep.
they do have a um, I can't even remember what they refer to them in the House, a delegate, I believe,
Right.
non-voting member that
Yep.
does represent the district's interest, but is not a voting member on substantive issues in Congress.
Yep.
So,
I'm still here. I'm just blowing my nose, and I didn't want to do it on camera.
and is an occultation.
And now I'm back. Exactly. Right. I didn't want to blow my nose physically on the camera. Yeah. So the idea that people from Wyoming have a greater say isn't really true in the Electoral College because they're only electing 3 electoral.
And nobody goes to
votes.
Wyoming to campaign. It's not like they.
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
Exactly.
they had.
Right. And right. Exactly. The larger argument is that the people whose votes only count are the swing states. And
Yeah.
like right now, if you were to, I'm going to share my screen for a second. Share screen. Oh, it's blocked. Dan Fishman, you are specifically blocked from sharing your screen. No, I'm just kidding. All right, here it is. So based on what we've got right here, and this is, the 2024 consensus view. Consensus right now, what everybody agrees, Democrats are going to have 226, Republicans are at 219. But these states are the battleground states that people still aren't sure about. And
Yeah.
I would say these states are very much up for grabs. It's interesting that North Carolina is in the middle of this whole terrible thing that's happened. By the way, I'm going to place a plug for Team Rubicon. They're on the ground there. Mike Dooling, who used to be chair of the county party and the Libertarian Party of Texas, good guy, helped me out a lot during the digital convention, but is on the ground with Team Rubicon. So if you're looking for a good place to donate money, another place I'll say, this is very interesting. I got banned on Facebook for this. If you want to both help out and give money, buy a year subscription to the Citizen Times, which is the local paper in Asheville, citizen-times.com. And first of all, they are actively reporting the truth, debugging myths, telling you what's really going on in Asheville, which I think was the largest city to really get smoked.
Oh yeah.
Um,
And it's sad. Asheville is such a beautiful town.
yep, yep. And
And a really cool place to be.
And so if you buy a year subscription there, which is only $45, and in fact, they'll sell you the first months for 10 cents and then renews at $20 a month after that. So it's smarter to buy a $45 a year subscription, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But whatever you want to do, that money then will get spent in Asheville because it's going to pay the people who are in Asheville covering all the stories and stuff like that. And it helps to get the truth out there about what's actually happening. So citizen-times.com is the actual local newspaper. It's a great place to, you're not even making a donation, right? You're buying a service. You're paying for a
Yeah.
service that the country needs. So
Yep.
back to this map, North Carolina is in play for sure.
Yes.
And I think a lot of this is going to be affected by what's going on. However, of the 16 votes here, very few are in the this little appendage out to the west.
Yeah. Asheville's the biggest city in that I
Yeah,
would say
and
the
it's not
western
particularly big.
third of North Carolina. I wouldn't, once you get to like Winston-Salem, Greensboro, High Point, the Triad area, that's,
Yeah, yeah,
central North
yeah,
Carolina. And then on
yeah.
the eastern
Or
side, you go the Research Triangle. But
right,
yeah,
Research Triangle, Raleigh, uh,
Durham and Chapel Hill.
all the most of North Carolina is in its eastern part and along the coast.
Yeah.
Um,
I would say, looking at this map, and that's why I say let the congressional districts be representative, so you would have far more golden places on this map for a candidate to go, rather
right,
than these big blocks, and you only have what, one, two, three, four,
right.
five,
They're right.
six,
Seven
seven,
states.
seven states that are in play, and then the rest of the states will yeah, essentially get it ignored, except for Maine and Nebraska may have visits from candidates, because
Yeah,
there are congressional districts
because the
that
two
may flip
might
between those.
matter. I don't think that the one Republican is going to flip, in Maine, but maybe. Certainly, Donald Trump isn't super popular, but
Yeah.
what's interesting about it is it means every one of these states really matters. And you look at Pennsylvania, the prize at 19. Pennsylvania had been Republican for a while, but it's been pretty solid Democrat in terms of its congressman since Rick Santorum left.
Yeah.
And an example of how it shifted: Rick Santorum
Well, always
was a
look like you take
Republican.
a shit.
Yes. All right, I'm going to turn this map off because it's asking me to do the "Am I gay?" test in the corner.
Nice.
No, let me stop sharing
No
this.
judgment here. No judgment here at all.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. I mean, if I don't know now, I don't know what the test is going to tell me.
Hey, $20 is $20.
$20 is $20.
Yeah.
But so it's going to be interesting to see how the
Yes, Greg, it
Electoral
is the
College.
biggest election the hugest, most in-your-face election in
Yeah,
your lifetime.
right. It's the one constant thing that you're going to hear every election cycle is that this is the biggest election of our time, the most
Yeah.
important. Your vote really matters. And it's interesting because I have come to the conclusion that it's not really true. And as much as I really don't want to see Donald Trump win, uh, the world will continue. It is bad, but the states that are good are going to still be good states, and they will resist federal power.
I hope
And
so. I just
well, because
here.
if you don't think that's true, then you really do think this is the biggest election of our time.
I mean, I do think that there is a lot at stake in this election. That regardless who wins, like if Trump wins, I don't like the prospects of America going forward. If Harris wins, I still don't like prospects of America going forward,
Right.
but for different reasons. And also, how do the hardcore Trump supporters react to Donald Trump losing again? Because they've already said that they're going to contest the results of the election if they don't win. So,
Right.
I
So
mean,
it's interesting because I watched. This is the first time I saw the anti-trans ad that the Trump people are running. I don't know if you've seen it or
yeah,
not.
I've seen it.
It's like their pronouns are they and them, and they don't care about you, which is pretty shitty.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is very shitty.
I mean, it's just astonishing that they're just saying all that because they think that's going to help.
And as
And
somebody who has a niece who is trans and has friends with trans, and AJ
Yeah.
with trans son. Like, it's just to see how they're demonizing people, and that's been my entire issue with the Trump campaign, is how they've just demonized people for being
Right.
themselves.
Right. Exactly. Well, and that's right. That's the part that, like, it's just, it's so unbelievably indefensible that I
Yeah.
can't imagine you can win with that. And yet there are people who are going to come out and say that they support that, which is
Oh yeah.
insane to me. I just
And
don't
I know
get
you're in
that
the
at
same
all.
boat. Like, it's have you been watching any of the baseball playoffs, or I mean, you watched football today? Did you watch the local
Right.
games, or are you watching Red Zone?
I watched the Bears, and then I watched Red Zone, and I
Okay,
would like
so
to be watching
if you
the
watch
Cowboys tonight. But
if you watch any of the games on local TV here in the DMV,
yeah,
DC, Maryland, Virginia, including West Virginia, because we're in the DC media market, the ads are horrible and they're just
really,
nonstop. Um,
it's pretty
because
crazy.
we get ads for the Maryland Senate race, we get ads for House races in Virginia, we get pretty much everything, and they just spend on these ads, and it's like nonstop. I, Thankfully, we are less than a month away from the election, so unless you live in Georgia or Louisiana, I know Louisiana's got those weird jungle primary type stuff where that there's a chance that there could be runoffs in November or in December. Georgia's the same way. If you don't somebody to get a majority, you'll it's like Groundhog Day.
Right.
You got 6
It'll
more
be
weeks of campaigning.
it'll be interesting to see what happens in Georgia, because of course that's one of the swing states where they're spending a tremendous amount of money. I I don't know, but so but let's circle around to the fact that you are saying that you think that this is the most important election in our time.
I do. I mean, I think I think you've got a guy in Donald Trump who has repeatedly demonstrated that the normal rules of engagement when it comes to politics are don't matter. Like, he's more than comfortable in going over Congress's head, and if he doesn't get his way, I don't think if he gets in the doors again, he'll leave willingly. Um, Plus, and here's the thing: we haven't even really talked about this in a while since the decision came out. He's now like whoever is well, Biden has the power now, but whoever gets the presidency in January of 2024 or 2025, I'm sorry, they have now the official acts clause handed to them by the Supreme Court. They can do whatever the fuck they want as long as they deem
Right,
it as official acts, and they don't have Congress impeach them over it. And if you've
right,
got, I mean, right now there's no way a party is going to get to 60 votes in the Senate to
yeah,
convict a president.
right.
So you essentially got a king coming into office. Who do I trust more? I mean, honestly, I trust Chase Oliver. I
Right.
don't trust Kamala Harris that as much,
No, definitely not.
but I
Definitely not.
certainly, 100%, with every fiber of my being, do not trust Donald Trump with that power.
Well, and so it's an interesting question because, one of the things that I had sort of thought would happen with Donald Trump was that the core of the Republican Party would have the backbone to resist him.
No,
That clearly didn't happen.
no, they
They all
folded like a
just sold out
aluminum
immediately.
lawn chair.
Yeah. And I wonder about the Democrats. If there's some Democrats who would resist Kamala Harris, or, I mean, it's interesting because we know that there is this strong fissure in the Democratic Party right now,
Yeah,
uh, between, first of all, progressives and the party, but then also,
there's this there's a
the
good corporate wing in the party that doesn't want to yield to progressives.
doesn't want to yield to progressives, and then there's also, there is a social justice, progressive Palestinian wing that is out there as well. The intersectionality, they tend to call it.
Yeah.
And that's different too. And that, I do want to differentiate that a little bit from progressivism, because a lot of progressivism, I think, was based on uh, almost socialistic ideas
Yeah.
of things we would do, which I would make an argument there were a lot of Jews involved in that side of it. None of those Jews are welcome in the progressive movement anymore, and so it's changed in terms of what it is.
Well,
Uh,
I think even within the progressive wing, there's wings within the within the wings. So I
sure.
mean, it's just um, yeah, because I mean, I do know that there's still very strong Jewish voices within the Democratic Party that do have a very socially conscious, socially focused viewpoint of politics.
Yeah.
But and we can talk about this because we are like an hour and 8 minutes away from the 1 year anniversary of the
Yep. October 7th
the
attacks.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it,
I mean,
it was supposed to be
technically speaking,
yeah in Israel. It is
right,
already
it is
October
already
7th.
there.
Yeah,
So it was 365 days, and here we are 1 year later, and that conflict is still going on,
yep,
and the resolution uh, seems to elude everybody else except for the people who are actually fighting it at this point in time. Everybody else seems to have this delusional opinion that peace can be imposed upon the area. And
yeah.
I mean, that's never worked. And, I think Netanyahu put it very well, even though, I mean, he's said a couple things really well. I think that he is in the way of the peace process,
Yes.
and that he thinks that if things calm down, he will lose an election. And I think that he's right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I do. If I'm gonna, there's got to be an account from the security failures of October 7th.
yeah, the security failures, not
Yeah,
to mention the fact that, when you have one of the problems with a multi party system is that you have to make deals with fringe groups.
yeah,
We often say that would be awesome for us as libertarians because people would have to make deals with us. On the other hand, if you think about the fact that fringe groups can have power, sadly, I think in America, white supremacists would have their own party, and it would probably be larger than the Libertarian Party. So, in that space,
the Quintus group.
yeah, Netanyahu is. I mean, he's a hardliner, but he's had to make deals with serious hardliners,
Oh
who
yeah.
these guys who really do believe that there is a divine reason that Jews are in Israel and all that bullshit, which I think nobody else believes in. Um, so it would be nice to have him out of the way. But Netanyahu did say two things that I think are very good. The first one that he said in the very beginning, when there was talk about not giving weapons, and uh, it should be clear that weapons aren't given to Israel. What happens is the United States gives Israel money, and then Israel spends that money supporting defense contractors in the United States,
Exactly.
um, which is essentially the United States
Kickback
giving money to defense contractors in the
in the
United
United States.
States. Exactly. Which is, why they defense contractors in the
Military
United States
industrial complex.
spend so much money. Exactly. Like that part of it's all complete bullshit. But as Netanyahu said, it's like, we'll keep fighting even if all we have left is fingernails. And I believe that that's
Oh
true.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
When people are fighting for their existence,
Right. And
yeah,
then the second thing that, Netanyahu has said is, and I think it's important too to differentiate between what's happening in Gaza and what's happening with Hezbollah. But in
oh yeah,
regards to Gaza, you know, Netanyahu's said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but it's like, either Israel gets the hostages returned or Hamas has won. And it doesn't matter how much damage Israel does to Gaza, how much damage they do to Hamas. If Hamas is left with one hostage at the end of this, they win. and Israel's not going to let Hamas win. So the only way that this ends is that all the hostages have to be returned. And probably what's going to happen is that Hamas will eventually kill all the rest of the hostages. Israel will try to find them and try to save them, but Hamas has, issued orders that if Israel gets close to saving them, that the guards should kill the hostages. Now, I mean, it's possible that, and I've thought about this a little bit. The leaders of Hamas want money. Maybe Saudi Arabia wants to buy the rest of the hostages. Let's just say they want to pay, there's 100 hostages left. They want to pay $10 million for each hostage, which is a crazy ransom. But that's $1 billion. That's nothing to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I mean, budget test essentially, but and to their credit, and I don't give Saudi Arabia a lot of credit about much, but to their credit, they have said that they are not interested in pursuing a wider war against Israel.
Right.
Because
for the same reason that Iran isn't really. Saudi Arabia and Iran have infrastructure that is incredibly fragile. And, this actually, it came up this week. Israel made some noises about destroying the Iranian oil fields.
Yeah.
And Iran has shut up, right? They don't want to talk about that. Well, actually, what Iran has said is that then, our only defense would be to have a bomb, which they don't have right now, supposedly. But and Saudi Arabia is the same way, right? I mean, Saudi Arabia, and since there's no point in having being a libertarian unless we're going to talk conspiracy theories. This part is true. When dealing with oil spills, some scientists invented a bacteria that eats oil.
Yes,
you can drop it in the thing. Now, of course, the question would come: what would happen if that got into the oil supply in the earth? Could you drop that into the Iranian oil fields with a bunker buster, and it would destroy all the oil underground there?
Oh my God!
I mean,
because I've heard of the the oil spill using bacteria and stuff. I mean,
and so it's generally thought that yes, that would happen, and it would eat out the that section. It wouldn't destroy all the oil in the world.
So essentially oil lingus?
Yes, exactly. It would eat it out. But it's an interesting thing because what is Saudi Arabia? What is Iran without oil? They haven't, I think of, if you saw, what was it called? Trans-Syriana or something like that.
Syriana, yeah.
Syriana, the Matt Damon movie.
Yep.
And he at one point he criticizes them. He said, you guys are going to go down in history as the people who squandered the greatest resource in the history of the world, because all you're doing is this stupid shit when you should be converting all this stuff and other things. And they're kind of starting to get that now, but not really.
They are. I mean, they're still so heavily dependent on the idea of the oil. And again, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen with their hands and whether it's Aramco, but there are some innovative things that the Saudis.
I'm glad you like the joke, Craig. I don't even know what joke I made. What did I say?
Oh no, I said the oil lingus, I think.
Oh yeah, oil lingus, yes.
But no, I mean, they're doing some innovative things, but I just think a lot of them are wasteful. Just like Emirates. The Emirates are doing a lot of things, but they're kind of because they're trying to get into banking.
They're trying to get into banking. They're trying to get into education, but really they're not in favor of education, right? Because education depends on the ability to criticize every idea. But in Islam, criticism of religion is blasphemy and punishable by death.
In Saudi Arabia, it definitely is. And the more militant, especially in Saudi because of the Wahhabist interpretation of Islam, or the Wahhabist influence in Islam. Yes, any criticism, of course, the presence of the holy mosque and the kind of the founding of Islam. But yeah, I have more hope for countries like the UAE, Oman,
Right.
uh, developing into something that's a little bit more than just
Well, I mean, you look at our greatest ally in the area, which you'd have to say is Qatar, or however you would like to pronounce
Qatar.
it.
Yeah.
Some people like to pronounce it as Qatar.
Some
Um,
I've heard. I think I did something on when we were talking about the World Cup coming
yeah,
to Qatar, and it is, you know, I've heard gutter. A lot of people like to say gutter, which I
gutter.
think is very, very insulting.
I, I
Um,
I think Qatar is pretty close.
Qatar is Qatar. It's the Q is
Yes,
very much in the back of the throat.
yep, yep, and there's a pronunciation thing to it, but it's
Yeah,
definitely an sound, not an
yeah. It's
sound.
short A's on both,
Exactly.
and yeah. So, but
But so
yeah,
they're our best allies. They have done some good things in space, but in general, actually, we could talk about Persepolis all the time. That's probably the people who are doing the best with it. And of course, they're living under this brutal dictatorship of the Shah, but they have, women's rights and a good science program, stuff like that, up until the revolution happens,
yes,
which is a very interesting thing. I remember reading about how the Germans brought Lenin to Russia in 1917 to cause the Russian Revolution. I mean, Lenin had been working at it for a long
yeah.
time, but he wouldn't have gotten particularly far if he hadn't had a lot of German money behind him at the time. And every now and then I sort of wonder, what happened with the Iranian Revolution? Was there a foreign force behind it, or was it completely homegrown? But
It was largely homegrown. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think the at that point the Soviets were more preoccupied with like not quite yet to Afghanistan, but they were
yeah. I
looking.
mean, this is right. This is the 70s, but
Yeah, it
I
was homegrown in that talking about
the
the
Shah was
socialism.
terrible.
The yeah, the Shah was terrible.
Right,
And really some of the stuff was actually manufactured by Ayatollah's people. Some of the bloodier things like the Abadan theater burning was
right,
actually the purview of the Shah's, or not the Shah's people, but the Ayatollah's people, um, because the Ayatollah did not like movie theaters, the idea of people watching the cinema. Um, but yeah, it was very much homegrown, and um, I think what happened with Iran is that it wasn't the Soviets getting influence in there. I think it was the fact it was a reaction to both the United States and Israel's influence in Iran. Israel had strong influence with the Shah's
yep,
regime. They helped found Savak, the paramilitary force,
yep,
the secret police. Um, so you know that's why we are the great Satan, and they still hate Israel. It's because of our what we did during the Shah's reign.
right,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I know that Iran and Saudi Arabia don't want to go to war with Israel. There's Iran's a little closer to it because they have thrown missiles at Israel.
right.
But they don't they don't really want that smoke, and it would be hard. I don't know if it's hard for Israel to retaliate, but I think Israel is going to do more of that targeted retaliation rather than
Right.
like a
I mean,
direct attack.
right. The thing, right, and I mean, right. This is the part that I worry about the most
Yeah.
is, you know,
Well, they will direct attack if it becomes clear that Iran has developed a weapon,
oh yeah, yeah,
a nuclear weapon. That it's on
right,
like Donkey Kong.
right. And what I worry is that Israel will not use a precision attack. That they would do something really terrible. Whether it's nuclear or certainly they have chemical and biological weapons.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean I don't. I think they're going to do something. It'll it's not so much. I don't think Israel would drop a nuclear weapon on Iran. I think what the terrible consequence would be is that they attack a functioning nuclear site, and then you've got radiation
Yeah.
meltdowns and things like that. That's where I think, you look at wind patterns and
Yeah.
what countries are to the west of Iran, and now you've got India, China involved, and
Right. East of Iran. Yeah.
or even
Um,
Iran, yeah,
it's yeah. It's certainly it's a clusterfuck. Hopefully we won't come to that, but you never know. Some
yeah.
crazy fuckers. The thing about it is, and this is the interesting thing to tie back into sanctions. The thing that makes countries not want to go to war and risk it all is for them to have something to risk. And so a broke Iran is more dangerous than Iran with some moderate wealth.
Also, sanctions only work if the leadership of the country has the interests of their people at heart, not their own personal interests.
Right. I mean,
I
I
mean,
think, well, right. So
the Ayatollah is completely insulated from the people.
yeah,
He's got
the,
he's got his forces. He's got
right.
the parliament really doesn't have a whole lot of power.
Well, and thinking, I'm thinking like sanctions against Russia and how ineffective they've proven to be.
Yeah,
But it's because they're pussyfoot sanctions. I mean, really, if I were president, I would make it illegal. I wouldn't make it illegal, but I would say that any American company doing business with Russia or doing business in Russia cannot use the American banking system. So Apple, make a decision.
yeah.
If you make
Starlink,
the Russians live without iPhones, that's an effective sanction.
yeah. Starlink, all those, yeah,
Exactly. Well, it's interesting. So I just learned this today. Uh, and I guess we can sort of break the news a little bit. If you have an Android phone, go to the Play Store and look for Real Report, REEL Report. And that's my new company, CTO. We've rolled out our Android version. Uh, and what it does is, there it is. It's on Dave's phone right now. It's awesome.
yeah.
And it allows you to shoot video with GPS coordinates and a lot of other metadata that is then read by a computer behind the scenes. And it ascertains whether or not the video that is then shown on the Real Report servers was created by a human being, where it was actually filmed, at what time it was actually filmed. No AI videos allowed. Uh, so one of the interesting things that we've been doing with that, in fact, if you get the application and you look, you'll see some videos that were recorded recently during the drone strike, the big Iranian missile strike
Yeah.
in Israel. But if you look, you'll see those videos show up and they're labeled as false because the IDF jams GPS when missile strikes are coming in. And so these videos that were actually filmed in Tel Aviv report their location as being in the middle of the airport in Amman, Jordan. Because,
Interesting.
yeah, that's what the IDF does, which it makes complete sense that that's what they would do.
Yeah.
So the missiles aren't guided. And it's, I think a lot of people have been impressed at how little damage Iran did during this last missile strike.
And I think to an extent, a
Yep.
lot of what Iran and, even Israel, doing in retaliation, like, I think when Iran retaliated for the Qasem Soleimani incident
Right.
in Iraq, their missile strikes were more for show, and they largely hit uninhabited areas.
Yeah.
And it was more for public consumption locally that we're fighting them back. They see the contrails going towards Israel. They're
Exactly.
fighting the great Satans, and
Right.
um, whether they fall in the middle of the desert, that the ultimate result doesn't matter. It's just the fact that they took that action. Um, yeah, so I'm not. I still am not overly worried about a region-wide escalation unless Iran gets a bomb, and then I think that's probably the trigger point of where you would see a much greater escalation.
Yeah, I agree. I do. I wonder. I don't know. I wonder to a certain extent is there somehow going to be a breakout of sanity at some point in time, right? Is there going to be, it's interesting to see like sort of, Lebanon pulling their army out of the way
Yeah.
and saying, it's not our fight. Israel doesn't want to fight us. They only want to fight Hezbollah, and we're getting out of here. Is there a point in time at which people would say this? And I read an interesting thing saying that uh, Iran feels very threatened right now because they invested a ton of money, right? Almost all the money they got into Hamas,
Yep.
into Hezbollah, into a lot of their armed forces, all of which now appear to have been flushed down the toilet. And in this spot now, what do they think is the right path forward? Is it to throw more good money after bad? Is it to continue this fight that they've completely lost, or is it to try to move on? And Iran is a country with its own revolution brewing again, right? There is an enlightened movement in
There's a
Iran,
disconnect between a very young population that has seen that are facing the sanctions, the crippling sanctions
right?
that are bristling against the repressive, overbearing administration of the country, against the insular elite of the country. And we saw it in the last election. They elected the most reform minded guy, um, versus somebody that was kind of the Ayatollah's favorite.
Right.
Well, and there's also the uh, recent death of the president, who was actually seen as somebody that was in line to really take over from Ayatollah once he passes on.
Right.
Um, uh, it'll be interested to see. I think something comes to a head if the Ayatollah passes away, although they are very well taken care of.
Yeah.
Um, Khomeini died in his late 80s,
Yeah.
so we'll see what happens with Iran. I'm hopeful that at some point the people do take back the power. I think they swung from a repressive Shah, the kingdom of Iran,
Right. Which is
that
crazy.
regime, to just an oppressive religious regime. You're not benefiting yourselves, and I think a lot of people who really welcomed the Shah back didn't really realize what that entailed. Even though he put out a book about what he wanted to do, I don't think a lot of people read it. And I think if they had read it, then they were like, I don't know, we're going to put this guy in power. But yeah, I uh, my hope is that Iran turns around and it becomes a place where we have better
That
relations.
it returns to what the promising culture that it seemed like it was going to be, the enlightened culture, in many
It's a
ways. The
I mean, it's a beautiful culture. Like the people there. Every time I hear stories, a professor had studied in Iran.
yeah,
You ever watch and if you get a chance to, it's on YouTube. Watch the Rick Steves
yeah, the Rick
visit to
Steves,
Iran.
that was excellent.
My God, that whole thing about him talking about. And remember, Rick Steves is a very religious guy, very Christian guy who travels primarily around Europe, but he does go to other
Yeah,
countries. But went to Iran, and the hospitality he talks about, the culture there is second to none.
yeah,
They're just under a repressive regime.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely true.
Yeah,
Well, hopefully things can turn out a little better. Maybe the Electoral College will have something to do with that.
yeah. Electoral College, I don't think it works now, but I think if we do reform it to allowing the congressional districts to be open, you'll I think people will then realize that this country is it is very divided, but it's not black and white. Like people who push for the idea of states seceding and things like that, the idea of civil war, they just don't understand that how do you split states? How do you, like,
Yeah, and I do like the idea that we're supposed to be a bunch of states united.
yes,
I mean, the ultimate goal is obviously to minimize the power of federal government. We do, and if it
and then
got to a certain level, we wouldn't care anymore. I don't know
yes.
when we're going to get there, but I do know we should do the
Yeah,
quiz. I agree.
yeah, it's quiz time. All right, so context clues. We saw somebody
That's
at
the
the
vice
bar,
presidential debate.
vice presidential debate, and Jimmy
Jimmy
Carter
Carter's
turning
'100th
$100,
birthday.
100 year.
I don't know what this is.
So it says vice presidential debate, a labor strike, a food dye ban. What do you remember from the week that was? Remember, this is from Friday
Right.
to or Thursday of last week to Thursday of this week. So anything that's happened this weekend is not on here, but we do know a lot of stuff that's going on this week.
Yeah.
All right, question number one. Democrat Tim Walz and Republican J.D. Vance faced off in their first and only vice presidential debate this week. Where did the debate take place? Phoenix, New York, Philadelphia, and Atlanta. I think we had this question last week.
I think so too. It was in Philadelphia, wasn't it?
I thought it
No,
was
the
in New York.
presidential debate was in Philadelphia.
It was in New York, I believe.
It was in New York. Okay.
New York City.
New York City.
Yes, matchup between Ohio Senator J.D. Vance and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
43 million viewers. Really? Or does that say 4.3?
Nope, 43. And
Crazy.
not I mean, that's what, half of what voted for Joe Biden.
Wow, but it's a very high TV
I
audience.
mean, it's a good number, but
Yeah.
yeah.
This one, it
Question
says
number
port
2.
workers.
Yeah, which union workers along the East and Gulf Coast went on strike this week against automation and for increased wages? Delivery workers, nurses, port workers, or teachers? What we know is port workers.
It was the stevedores.
With stevedores.
Yeah.
It's I think would
So
that would be good. That would be good team name for a team on a port city.
Yep.
Like a New Orleans stevedores.
Yep. So that would be a good name for that. What's interesting about it is that they didn't actually resolve the strike per se, right? They agreed to a wage increase and to put the other part off until January.
Yes.
You sort of kick it out thing. But the other part that they want is to ensure that there will be no automation.
Which is dumb.
Which is completely dumb. Because
I mean, I get protecting your I get protecting your jobs, but
what's going to happen is that just people are going to build automated ports and not hire any of the longshoremen there. And then the longshoremen are going to say, well, if your ship goes to an automated port, then you can't unload at our regular ports. And then those guys will go there and say, okay, well, we've got a queue. And if you don't want to unload us, we're blocking the port. And so now you have no work. And so everybody has to go to these automated ports.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty crazy.
It's interesting. I mean, the timing was very interesting with the election coming up. The impact that it could have had in the economy. I even thought, does this sound kind of fishy for the timing of the election? Is somebody pushing this narrative?
I mean, it's interesting because now Biden and Harris get to claim that they solved the problem. So it does sound a little fishy.
Well,
the head of the union, is the real classic union head, right? Lives in a mansion. Just crazy.
Yeah. I've spent time I've been in a few unions in my life and never been impressed with the leadership.
Yeah.
They are so willing to sell out the workers for a little bit more, a few more feathers to their nest. Yeah.
They're little tyrants, like every other leader with a little taste of power.
Yep. All right. Which country swore in its first female president this week? Belgium, Denmark, Iceland, or Mexico?
I'll give you a hint. It adds to the worldwide Jewish conspiracy theory.
It does.
Yeah.
First Jewish president of Mexico.
Yep. Mexico. Claudia Sheinbaum.
Yeah,
who
Claudia Sheinbaum was sworn in Tuesday as Mexico's first female president. She made promises to limit prices for gasoline. Good idea. And
now, am
food.
I crazy, or was it the Shine Bomb wig company that owned NBC on 30 Rock? Did you ever watch 30 Rock?
I did not watch 30 Rock,
Oh,
even
you are
though
missing something, my friend.
I've got a thing for Tina Fey, but
Dude, well, right, who doesn't? Uh,
sure.
but you owe it to yourself to watch 30 Rock. It's just one of the funniest, smartest shows ever made. And you have a Peacock subscription,
That's true. I do.
so you should watch it. When we do the show next week, I want to hear that you've watched 3 episodes.
I'll try it. It's, hockey season started, man.
Not yet.
No,
Preseason.
for my team, it started not well, but it started.
Oh, do they have it a real game already?
Yeah, they played 2 games in Prague this week,
Oh, I didn't
Friday
know
and
that.
Saturday, and then lost both of them to the New Jersey Devils. So
What was the? We watched the Blackhawks preseason game, but it was in Milwaukee for some reason.
yeah, so preseason games they'll play in like their minor league affiliates. So they're probably playing Nashville or something like that.
Gotcha.
Nashville's AHL affiliates in Milwaukee.
Gotcha.
Milwaukee would actually be a good NHL city, I think.
Yeah, sure. I mean, any place where kids can actually get out and skate on frozen water, I think
Yeah,
is a good
yeah.
idea.
But yeah, so I know in Canada they do this thing called Craft Hockeyville, where they renovate like a local ice rink, and a couple Canadian teams play an exhibition game there for a local
Yeah,
community. So it's really cool.
it is cool.
All right, question number 4: which state recently banned several food dyes from K through 12 public
Craig got
schools?
it already.
Yeah, Craig got it already. California makes sense.
Yeah,
Illinois also makes sense, but California.
I agree with Craig. I think it's California.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that as well. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Governor Gavin Newsom signed into into law that would ban the use of red dyes, number 40, and 5 other chemicals from use in foods that's served at public schools. So no more M&Ms, as you can see right here, or Skittles,
Yep.
which sucks because M&Ms are my drug choice.
I do like M&Ms. I'm not a big fan of
Peanut M&Ms are my. I love.
You know, Van Halen had a rider in their contract that there'd be a giant bowl of M&Ms with all the blue ones taken out. And years later, they revealed that it wasn't so much they didn't like blue and M&Ms. They wanted to know whether or not somebody actually read the rider. And,
Wow.
very interesting.
All right, question number 5. Former President Jimmy Carter celebrated a milestone birthday this week. How old did he turn?
100. It's pretty crazy. Like, I think of, we saw the
First
video
one to hit it.
at Rosalind Carter's funeral, and he looked pretty bad there.
Yeah.
It's astonishing that he's just, still going.
I mean, and I said it at Rosalind's. I thought that, we'll probably hear pretty soon, because it's very hard when you've been with a spouse that long to lose them, and especially being in as frail a condition as he has. He's held on, and maybe this was his thing to hold on for.
I don't know.
You don't know what has people holding on, but he's still around, still kicking somewhat, or not really kicking much. He's
I haven't heard anything about like what his state is like, but I mean, for me at that point in time, I would want the ability to just turn off the lights.
Yep, absolutely. Question number 6: an annular solar eclipse on Wednesday created blazing ring of fire. So did Taco Bell at my house in the sky for some viewers. In which countries?
Burns.
Argentina and Chile, France and Germany, China and India, or Ethiopia and Somalia.
So I have no idea.
I don't either.
My guess is going to be Argentina and Chile, because everything that I hear about eclipses talks about Columbus escaping the Incans or the Aztecs or whatever. And so I'm basing it on that old racist story. I think if it were France and Germany, we would have heard more about it. And
Yeah.
if it's Argentina and Chile, then like it covers this sort of path on the southern hemisphere where it only hits those two countries. I can't imagine something where like it would only hit France and Germany and not Belgium or Switzerland or something else.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's France or Germany. I don't think it's. I mean, I could see Argentina and Chile because those are two side by side countries, and there's nothing on either side of them that
Right.
would have caught it.
That's my guess.
Ethiopia and Somalia again. That's
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
But I mean, it's the Horn of Africa, right?
yeah.
How does it pass over the two of them and nowhere else?
Not anything before that. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, let's do Argentina and Chile. Anybody have a guess in the
Greg says it
comment?
was California.
Yeah, as California.
I'm just kidding. That's what he said for
Correct.
students. Good job.
Argentina and Chile.
Yep.
Although the part
Included Easter Island, which is part of
Ecuador.
Ecuador. Thank you.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So the Ring of Fire, or go to Taco Bell.
Yeah, exactly.
Question number 7: which cell phone carrier encountered a major outage that sparked a flurry of customer complaints across the United States? AT&T, Boost Mobile, Verizon, or T-Mobile? I'm going to say it's not Verizon because I didn't have an outage. So.
I didn't have a problem either. I'm going to guess AT&T, but I don't know. I think if it were Boost Mobile, nobody would know. So
Yeah, it's either to me it's either AT&T or T-Mobile. I don't see anything from the context here. It's very dark, or basically shades of gray in this thing.
yeah, I agree. Let's go AT&T.
AT&T.
Oh, it
Oh,
was Verizon. I didn't hear anything either.
yeah, I didn't hear anything. Interesting. Verizon customers reported a nationwide inability to connect to the network on Monday. Many subscribers complained that their phones were stuck in SOS mode. What is the SOS mode?
Where you can only make emergency calls.
Okay. Throughout the day and only allowing emergency calls via satellite. Wow. All right. Didn't even realize my phone had that capability. All right. Question number 8. Which American car brand is working to address safety concerns after at least 13 fires were linked to some of its plug-in models? So it's an electric car company. Is it Ford, Jeep, Cadillac, or Chevrolet? So of those two, it's either Ford or Chevrolet to me.
Right, because that's not be somebody with an electric car. I don't think there's an electric Jeep out there. I don't. I'm gonna guess.
Question: do you think that the weird the duck thing for Jeep is weird?
I don't even know what the duck thing for Jeep is.
So apparently, if you're a Jeep owner, people will give you ducks, like little rubber duckies. It is weird duck culture. It's
I don't
ducking
know
weird.
anything about it.
It is. Ducking.
I mean, what I do know is that there are
It
two
says
different.
Ford.
There are two different. I agree that it's Ford, and because like I don't know if you've seen,
Found on road dead.
Ford is now selling.
Oh no, it's Jeep.
It is Jeep. Wow.
I didn't realize that in electric.
Nope. Yeah, me neither. Yeah, we're falling apart here at the end. Ford is now selling a battery like the Tesla Wonderwall, and they install it for free for you when you buy the F-150 Lightning. It's pretty
Really?
interesting, especially in this era where people are thinking about, how vulnerable people are without power. That Ford is going to give you this giant battery in your house, but then you could plug a solar system into
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Or it's like you get you have a solar system, you can use it to store the energy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
I mean that's if you ever looked at the Tesla solar system, the solar tiles for the roof,
Yep.
like almost $100,000 to do like a standard roof.
I saw an interesting thing where Ford was saying that they're looking to transition from becoming an automotive company to becoming an energy company, which is pretty weird.
Interesting. Yeah, good on you for resisting the trend there, Craig.
Yeah.
It's just weird. I like I've heard stories of people coming out to their Jeeps with ducks like plastered to the hood and shit like that. So, weird. Question number 9: which streaming platform is fighting a $170 million defamation lawsuit involving its hit show Baby Reindeer? I've never. That's not the Menendez one, is it?
No, that's called like Almost Perfect or
Yeah. So
something else.
Hulu,
Not Baby
Netflix,
Reindeer. It's.
Peacock, or Disney.
I'm pretty sure it's not Disney or Netflix. I don't have the other two, so I don't know. You
Peacock
have,
is NBC's
yeah,
flagship. Hulu is what, the second largest.
you have Peacock,
Well,
right?
yeah. Well, I've got. I think I've got all four of these.
Interesting.
Um, Hulu and Disney are part of the same package. It's Hulu, Disney, and ESPN.
Right.
Oh, Greg says Netflix.
Let's go Netflix.
Netflix is getting bled dry by lots of different things. So,
Yeah.
yes,
All
Scottish
right.
woman is accused of stalking Baby Reindeer creator and star Richard Gadd can proceed with a defamation lawsuit against Netflix after a federal judge in California refused to dismiss all of the claims.
I don't even know what that means, but
So apparently, this woman was accused of stalking, and she publicly and is going after maybe on in this
I don't know.
show. I don't know. Interesting. All right, question number 10. LeBron James and his 19-year-old son, Bronny, are expected soon to make history as the first father-son duo to play together on which NBA team? Oh, that's easy.
This we know. It's the Lakers.
It is the Lake Show,
Yeah.
which, I mean, it's interesting. How well do you think Bronny's going to do?
I don't know. I mean, LeBron can still play.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't. I mean, I think Bronny is essentially kind of like a nepo hire.
it'll be interesting to see. Sports is generally unforgiving around that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think it's more for LA to LA's had some rough years,
yeah, for sure.
and to keep it's all competition out in Los Angeles. You've got a fairly good hockey team. You've got a really good baseball team. You've got you know football teams are a little hit or miss, but
Yeah,
you've got competition for sports dollar. The Lakers have had some down years, so this is going to be an interesting storyline. But I think I think LeBron is not long for the NBA, and I think he's probably going to hang it up at the end of this season. Um,
yeah.
and
They
how
keep
long Bronny stays with the
after
team
that.
after that is going to be a question.
Yeah, it's
I
interesting.
wasn't impressed with his college career. He did have the heart issue, I think, at
Right,
USC. Um, but we'll see. Maybe he really finds his groove and the genes kick in for him.
right. It'll be interesting to see where how long he wants to play because I was watching Charles Barkley and Shaq uh, talk about it, and they're like, he could easily play another 5 years.
Oh, he could, but I think the amount of wear and tear on his body. Because remember, he skipped college. He didn't play a single game in
Yeah,
college.
yeah,
So he had four. Like Barkley played all 4 years. Jordan played 3 of 4 years. The wear and tear of an NBA season on his body going back. I mean, he's played. I think is almost as many years as Kareem. He's getting close, and you know
I think he's
what
played
does
more
he
than
have
Kareem.
left to prove?
Yeah, I think he's played more than Kareem
Yeah.
because
So,
Kareem played 4 years in college.
yep.
Um, anyway, we got 8 out of 10. That's not
Yeah.
bad. We would have done better, AJ, if you'd come and helped us. But
Yeah, AJ was having a headache today, so
yeah,
but
totally fine.
yeah, AJ would have helped us, especially with the sports questions.
Exactly.
So
The good thing
anyway,
is, it looks like there's a stinker of a game going on in Pittsburgh between Dallas and Pittsburgh. 6-3 in the third quarter.
ooh,
So
scintillating.
yeah, I'm glad that I didn't have to watch that. But
Maybe it'll get more exciting once the show is over. They were waiting for us
exactly,
to.
they were waiting for us to come in there. So I think I'm going to go watch it. Thanks
All right.
everybody for tuning in.
Yeah. Thanks
Like
everyone
and
for tuning in.
subscribe. Yeah, I didn't get the pop up either. I'm not sure why.
Ah, interesting.
We'll take a look at that, James.
Yeah, I will. Restream's been doing some different things with their platform, so a little patience while we figure things out here. But I'll check it out and make sure that notifications are coming up. So, but
All
anyway,
right.
thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you all next week with another episode of the Political Deep Dive.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.